Yeah, that sucks. Okay, meeting being live streamed. Beautiful. Look at that, eh?
So, brother, you chat up your faithful, and I'm going to tweet the link at you.
All right, go for it. Good morning, everybody. Good Friday morning. I'm glad you're up with us today. It's Jackie Robinson Day. It's Erev Passover, so that Passover starts tonight. It's Good Friday. It's like everything sort of combined into one. For those who aren't aware, either aren't of the Jewish faith or don't know anyone or the customs, Passover begins like the high holiday, not the high holidays, any holiday begins at sundown. That's when it begins, not like when you wake up in the morning. So tonight is the first night of Passover, which Passover occurs during the Hebrew calendar, which just doesn't match up with our calendar at all. So, sometimes it's in early April, sometimes it's in late March, sometimes it's in mid-April. It depends where it falls. So it just so happens that this weekend and tonight, it falls on on Good Friday, on the Friday night. Sometimes it's on a Tuesday night,
Right.
But here it's all kind of everything, all the forces together make it like a huge weekend. And it's Jackie Robinson Day, which is significant in baseball, but even more. It's sort of like this, in no other sport or endeavor does everyone involved bow down and thank one person,
right?
One human being for where they are today, where the game is today, where life is, where society is, the way we think. And it's Jackie Robinson, without any doubt at all. As much as you want to say about the late Martin Luther King or anyone that had to do with civil rights, and what Dr. King did is indisputable. Jackie Robinson came before that. He allowed that to happen. Wow. And when it comes to baseball, as soon as Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, and I have a story, by the way, I'll mention on the podcast that I put up on YouTube. But it's amazing that once Jackie Robinson entered the game and people realized that, oh, he's a human being and what a ball player, right? And more men of color were allowed to play. All the best players, the first blacks that came to the majors, every one of them just about was like a superstar. We're talking Hank Aaron, we're talking Ernie Banks, Willie Mays, Don Newcomb was a great pitcher. And a lot of these guys had already started their professional careers in the Negro leagues, which now are being recognized by baseball as being professional leagues, which is the way they were. It's just they couldn't play with the whites. So it's quite remarkable that all the great players, all of them, early on, when the blacks were finally allowed to play, were and there was only a few on every team. It's not like these teams were stacked.
Right.
My story about the Pittsburgh Pirates in the mid-'60s, where they had 15 players of color, 25-man roster, 15 of them were men of color. And that would have been unheard of 20 years earlier. Unheard of.
Right.
So it's a significant day. We'll talk about that as well.
Amazing. Not to interrupt, but we need
please do
retweet, I should say, the link to this live stream on YouTube.
Bet I will, Mike.
It'll be interesting because a lot of people probably have it as part of their like weekday schedule, but today being a statutory holiday, it'll be interesting how many people are sleeping in or have a different, schedule. And, a lot of people might take this opportunity to stay in bed till 9:30. Not us, though. We're here. We're working away.
We are live, even though it's a holiday. I'm trying like live tweeting something when you're like, it's like I have to type something, and can I type something? Can I walk and chew gum at the same time? The
okay,
no.
You do that.
Thanks.
I'll just say hello to Midtown Gord, and he got that name because he'd call into the Fan 590, and Gord Stellick decided his nickname would be Midtown Gord. So it's good to see Midtown Gord. He's a big fan of heavy metal music. So
am I.
Okay, well he loves he loves them all, but Lee Aaron is a particular
the Metal Queen, sure.
Yeah, from Brampton.
Oh, I interviewed her years, like a long time ago, man. When I think, I thought about, like someone said, well, how many, because you see numbers, like I think Tom Cheek's number is 4306.
Yeah, I can see it.
I think so, because I was at the Dome last week and I'm kind of looking, man, consecutive games, and you think of numbers and all that. Like if I threw a number at you and said, here's the sport, would you know what it was?
Right.
If I said baseball, 56, what's that?
Okay, hold on. Joe DiMaggio hitting streak.
Right. If I said, this is interesting. Do you know Barry Bonds' number?
Oh, you know what? I don't know the exact.
Because I don't. I knew Ruth was
767 or something. Oh yeah,
I don't know. Because it's like, I'm not sure.
It's more than 714, but less than 800.
Right. If I mention NHL, okay, 92.
Goals in a season by Wayne Gretzky.
There you go. Iconic numbers. We'll have to come up with iconic.
Right.
I wonder if Auston Matthews is going to have an iconic number. He's going to reach a number, and then nobody's going to remember
his 65 in 2020.
Right.
By the way, conversely, just before we get rolling here, I see the clock, but Midtown Gord says he normally can't watch because he's at work. So today is the only day he can watch us live.
Well, thanks. Here's what I don't understand, and I don't do it. So you're watching on YouTube, you're listening though, right? Like you're doing other things, and you've got
not necessarily
your device in the pocket, or it's over on the stand where your radio would have been, or your parents' radio would have been.
Maybe he's staring at us and watching it like a TV show.
Is it
like the West Wing?
Gord, do I look okay? Like I don't know.
Gord, let us know how we look, and shout out to Gary Fabers on the live stream. But whenever you're ready, Hebsy, I've got your Los Lobos. Okay,
brother, let's go. Grammy Award winners.
Absolutely. Here, I like to do an emergency recording just in case something screws up. Okay, here we go.
Hey there, sports fans. Welcome to Hebsy on Sports. It's episode 280. It's the Good Friday, Pesach, that's Passover, Jackie Robinson Day edition of the show. And I'm not sure which should go first. Like what takes priority today? They've all fallen on the same day, even though Passover is not till tonight. We'll get into this heavy discussion, or not. Happy Easter, or Chag Sameach, Mike. Chag Sameach. Excuse me. That means happy festival in Hebrew.
Nice.
Chag Sameach. I'm your host, Mark Hebscher, in the Little Italy studio. We had a fire in the neighborhood. My favorite restaurant. A fire. Terribly sad day. Man. It's tough. It's a tough way to start the Easter weekend. Toronto Mike running the show from the new Toronto studio. Boy, really nothing to talk about today. Go back to bed. I'll tell you, if I was in regular media, I would be like exhausted by now, just because of probably it would be my fifth sportscast of the day. And there's so much stuff, but it's just so great being a sports fan, which is what I am. No longer,
reporter.
Mainstream media journalist, entertainer. Oh, what did I see the other day? There was a commercial. Kayla Gray was on, and it said, and the font was Kayla Gray, TSN personality. And I went, I like that. That's the station you work for, and you're a personality. That's
what you can have an opinion on something, as opposed to like a journalist or reporter who's supposed to be objective, right?
If there was a commercial with Toronto Mike, what would it say? It would say Mike Boone, and then next it would say what in bracket in quotations Toronto Mike.
Prolific podcaster.
I like that. Lots to talk about today. Auston Matthews, first Leaf to hit the 5,100 mark. A lot of people overlooked that. Dude, 5,100. Right. Think how many teams, how many guys can you name? 50, 100. Okay, the 50 goals is easy. Like 199 guys have scored 50 goals. Like it happens almost all the time. Not as much lately, but it's still a big deal. But 100 points for a Leaf. Come on.
When we get into the Auston talk, which I'm jazzed about, we also need to talk about the man who holds the record for most goals per game played.
What does that mean?
So,
what kind of stat is that?
Number of games played.
Oh, come on. Really? How many guys in the schoolyard were going, do you know that so-and-so is a 1.57?
Well, okay, the reason, Hebsy, man, you're going to feel terrible for that, because he passed away last night. So the man who holds that record.
Oh, geez, you set me up now. I feel like shit. Oh, that's a horrible thing to do, Mike.
You played yourself, Hebsy.
Horrible thing to do. I've been up. I've been doing stuff that I must obviously miss something that wasn't on the late night Lupin Sportscast this morning, Jay Onright sleeping. He's sawing wood, but what he did last night at 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. or whenever they do that damn show. I guess the news didn't make it. Shit. What happened? Tell me.
Well, Mike Bossy passed away at 65.
He was very, very ill. That's a shame.
Yeah, he was
okay, wait. Just wait. I have to collect my thoughts now. I have to think.
So when I would love to hear your thoughts about your interactions.
I got his phone number still. I got his number right here.
Well, he won't answer, but
no. Oh, jeez. I'm just saying that. I mean,
I know.
Humpty Dumpty chips, man. Boss.
So you can argue very strong
Greatest
argument.
sniper I ever said.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't want to do the show. I've just totally bummed right out that you mentioned it. Wish you would have saved it for the end of the show. But I guess I'm a journalist. So, all right, the show's got to go on. Mike Bossy has passed away at the age of 65. We'll talk about that soon. All right. Where were we? Oh, yeah.
Auston Matthews.
Yeah. And this other kid, Vladdy. What? Have you ever had one of those days where you go, wow, man, life couldn't get better. And then the next day, everything turns to shit. That's what happened to Vladdy in the Jays yesterday. Is it okay to pull your pitcher after 7 perfect innings?
Can't wait to talk about it with you.
What about throwing your mouth guard and hitting a fan? Is that all right? Is that acceptable? And I'm salivating at the thought of the Raptors playing Philadelphia in the playoffs. Oh, come on, bring it on. Bring it on. And if that's not enough, we're joined today by veteran journalist and Hockey Hall of Famer Scott Morrison. But I have to ask him, is he a Hockey Hall of Famer, or is he in the journalist's wing of the Hockey Hall of Fame? I mean, is it correct to call him a Hockey Hall of Famer?
Let's find out.
Well, he's the only one that could tell us. First, though, let's talk about just the best sports city in the world, right here, Toronto, and the aptly named Toronto Mike. What's up with you? Whoa, is it exciting watching sports in this town?
You know, we're so blessed because we can watch in the same night. You can watch Auston Matthews, you can watch Vladdy Guerrero, you got, Scotty Barnes, you got such great young talent in this city, and good things, man. Are you going to be at Jurassic Park tomorrow?
No, I won't be there. No.
But a quick. Okay,
I don't think I should standing outside while the game is going on in Philadelphia. No, I'm not. I don't think I'm ready for that.
It's for the youngsters.
I guess so.
It's so real quick, because I want to hear your take on the Leafs, but I will just let you know that I was in the building for the when we shit the bed against the Sabres. I was in the building.
I don't like that expression.
No, okay.
Come up with something else. Just the visual. The visual is no. Something better than that. We played
I need that
very
list
poorly.
of expressions.
Yeah, it's got to be, but I just don't like that one. It just doesn't.
Okay, well, I was in the that.
Got it.
Yeah, and then anyways, much better performance last night.
Right. I just found out this morning too, via Facebook, that my favorite restaurant, there was a fire there.
What's the name of this restaurant, Hebsy?
La Forchetta.
Well, it's terrible news.
Really bad news. We're there every couple of weeks for sure. It's a great spot in the neighborhood. So I'm really pissed about that. And I haven't assessed the damage myself because I've been here in the studio this morning, but I have to go for a little walk after the show. We were at the Jays game last Sunday. So our seats are down the right field line, sort of midway down the line, not bad seats, not bad. But the first base coach, both first base coaches, the Jays first base coach, whose name I can't remember, Basinski, right? And Texas's first base, I don't know his name, never will. Stand directly in our sight line so that as we're looking, we cannot see the hitter. We can't. Oh. And it's almost as if they know we're right there and they're like, we're going to fuck with these people. I'm not going to move. And I'm going to make myself big. I'm going to spread my legs wide, right? And I'm going to put my shoulders back. All right. And I might even bob my head, something like that. And I could not see. So now I'm trying to get a look at the best hitter in baseball, Vladdy and Bo and Springer, and I can't even see it. I don't know how like this. And
that would be awful.
That, not only is that, but the guy behind me is from South Africa, and he's never been to a baseball game before. And his North American girlfriend or friend or whatever is explaining the game to him, but doesn't know the game. And I'm just seething, right? And my girlfriend's like, easy. And we have to listen to this. So you know what it's like, Mike. You don't see the people behind you. You might have glanced at them when you went to your seats, but you don't really know what they look like. It doesn't matter. But they're 6 inches from your ears, and they're spewing nonsense, and they're drinking. And he keeps asking questions. And I want to get up and go, all right. And in 2 minutes, explain the game to him, saying, don't ask any more fucking questions. Watch the game. But they're talking about getting bombed the night before and hair of the dog. They're drinking beers. Then they're going for rum and cokes. Oh, my God. It was just fucking awful.
I saw your Twitter storm about this. It's quite entertaining.
Because I couldn't see the game.
Just be glad she didn't have to explain the infield fly rule to the guy.
I know. I tweeted that, but and people are going, well, why, stop tweeting. Why don't you watch the game? I couldn't watch the game, folks. I couldn't watch it. There was nothing else to do but tweet out how aggravating it was. Okay. Were I to tell you that the Toronto Maple Leafs would get 0 goals from Auston Matthews, Mitch Marner, and John Tavares and still beat Washington 7-3, you would have said, Hebsy, you're fucking nuts. There's no way, because the Leafs depend on those guys. Because those are the highest paid players on the team. And those are the guys that win you game 7-3. Not 2 guys named Ilya. Never happened before in Maple Leaf history. Ilya 1 and Ilya 2. One guy had his nickname taken away from him from another guy whose last name is Campbell, and automatically his nickname is Soup. So all this soup shit with, sorry, I didn't mean that. All this soup nonsense with Mikheyev gone. This guy's the new Soup. Like, what's all that about? He was the Soup man, and now he's not the Soup man. Anyway, he's Ilya 1, and then Lyubushkin is Ilya 2. Never before in the history of Toronto Maple Leafs. 2 Ilyas. Wow. Bunting. 2 goals. No goals in 17 games. I'll score 2. Isn't that always the way it is? Like, you break out big time. On Nylander, not only does he have 2 goals, but his second was the 30th of the year, and it was Rick Vive. Down the wing, bang. Did you see that shot?
Yes, I did.
He bulged the twine. It was beautiful. Oh, but 2 Ilyas, that's a big deal, don't you think?
Did you confirm, though? I worry that what if there was a couple of...
Oh,
no. It's not too, you don't have to go back too far, right?
No, but name me another Ilya that played for the Leafs. I'm listening. Ilya Hammerstrom? No.
No, and we didn't let Ilyas play in this league until, what, the 80s or so, right?
But the way I look at it is like Ilya Kuryakin was the first Ilya I knew, was Ilya Kuryakin, okay? Do you know who that was?
No.
You're too young. The man from U.N.C.L.E., okay? His sidekick was David McCall, Ilya Kuryakin. He was like, like a spy.
It was U.N.C.L.E. was like U.period.end.
That's right. So, it was good. It was fun. Auston Matthews of the pair of helpers, first Leaf to crack the 5,100 mark. Tavares had 4 assists, 4. I want to talk more about Matthews later with Scott Morrison.
Okay.
Hall of Famer, Scott. Still. Wonder if he goes by that title. And make comparisons with Hall of Famers Doug Gilmour and Daryl Sittler, who the other 2 guys do score 100 points in a season for the Maple Leafs. In the meantime, Nylander, 30-goal mark. That's good. Marner had a helper to reach the 60-assist mark for the second time. The key point of the game took place in the second period when John Carlson cut the Leafs lead to 2-1 with a gorgeous individual effort. He got, who was it that was the commentators last night? Brian Mudryk was fantastic. Ray Ferraro always is, but Brian Mudryk's, either it was the greatest game he had ever seen, or the energy that he had was terrific. And it takes nothing away from Gord Miller, but Gord is more of a, but Mudryk was like, wow, what a play. Look at that goal by Carlson. Wow, Lyubushkin. So it was great. So Carlson cuts the lead to 2-1. And then 13 seconds later, Lyubushkin, okay, Ilya 2 scores. And then 18 seconds later, Nylander, Rick Vive. And then 2 more goals by the Leafs in the next 4 minutes, and that's it. So that's what it's like with this team. It's like, oh, it's close, and oh my God, they missed a chance. And then bang, 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 game's over, done. So Jack Campbell could afford to play. Hey, he was okay. He got whacked by Tom Wilson, Tom Wilson 2, not Tom Wilson 1, the guy we all know, that everybody knows and loves, Junk House. And you got the album there? Yeah.
Yeah. Coincidentally, I didn't.
And Beautiful Scars and, but Tom Wilson, the asshole, the rabble rouser, the guy who, decided to take the inside route. What are you, Michael Schumacher, trying to go to the inside against the wall? And knocks Jack Campbell's lid off. But Campbell after the game is cool. He's like, yeah, it's part of hockey.
Do you know who the third Tom Wilson is? Okay.
The third Tom.
Yeah. The guy who played Biff in Back to the Future.
That's great. Leafs are in Ottawa tomorrow night. Jack Campbell expected in the nets again, looking like a Toronto-Tampa playoff series with the Leafs holding a 4-point lead on the Bolts for home ice advantage. Tampa. Meanwhile, playoffs? The Philadelphia 76ers with home court advantage as they get set to tangle with the Toronto Raptors in the first round of the NBA playoffs. That's Saturday at 6 p.m. All right. 6 p.m. obviously because, we got the Leafs Ottawa and you don't want to be, but we're going to be on 2 screens for a while for sure. Game 2 in Philly goes Monday. So Monday night. All right. And then games 3 and 4 are in Toronto Wednesday night and Saturday afternoon. So Wednesday night, and then Thursday off, Friday off, and then Saturday at 2. Now, here's the good news from the series. Swingman Matisse Thybulle, the only NBA player, I believe, known named after a French impressionist artist. I think there's no Renoir Smith, no longer in the league. Matisse Thybulle is not allowed in Canada because of his vaccination status. Great news for the Raptors because this guy's tough. He's a really good perimeter defender, a second-team all-defensive NBA player. He only averages about 6 points a game, but he's tough. He steals, he blocks. So he won't be here for games 3 and 4. And if the Raps get a split in Philadelphia and they don't have Thybulle and Harden isn't shooting, which he hasn't been, then I don't give a shit if Embiid scores 50 points. They're not going to beat the Raptors. They're not. The Raps have beaten them 3 out of 4. Okay. I was on the floor 10 days ago, was it?
Right.
Watched them right there. And the Raps were down 15 in the first quarter. Getting their asses kicked.
So what's your prediction for this series?
Raps in 7.
Okay.
Raps in 7. Because you know why? We're healthy. We got FVV. We got Pascal. We got a healthy OG. Knock wood. We got Trent Jr. We got Kem Birch. We got Precious. We got Boucher. We got Thad Young. And the rest, I think we're good. I like us. And I'll bet on us because the Bodog odds have the Raptors at plus 155 to win the series. That's good numbers. Plus 155 means if you bet $100, you get back 155 plus your original $100. I mean, come on. The Raps have beaten 3 out of 4 this year. So does that mean anything? Of course it does. They're going to win. All right, I got to get to that.
You have to get. I was going to say.
No, I don't have to get to
Shaquille O'Neal made a prediction that.
Who? That the purple ink guy, the magenta ink guy. He did what?
Yeah, he does a few endorsements, right? But he called for a sweep. I think he did kind of start to walk it back a bit later, but he did on TV, live TV. He said the 76ers would sweep the Raptors.
I'm going to tell you this right now. Anybody that predicts a sweep is just asking for it. They're asking to get their ass kicked. What are you, Joe Namath? Oh, we're gonna win a game, dude. Say it's gonna be tough. Don't ever disrespect an opponent in a playoff series. Just don't do it. That's fodder. That's what do they call that? Bulletin board material.
Right.
Even though Shaq doesn't play for one of the teams, he's still, dude. Don't disrespect like that. You don't need to do that because what happens is if they do sweep, great. You can live with that for 5 minutes. 5 good minutes of that. Oh, I predicted a sweep and they swept. But if they don't, you're going to get your ass kicked all over the lot. And every prediction you make after that, okay, every bold prediction like that, they're going to go, yeah. So don't do that.
Right, because I predicted the Leafs would sweep the Canadians in the playoffs last year. So I'm never doing that again, Hebsy.
Don't predict sweeps. Don't predict it, okay? Just don't do it. It's not, come on, respect your opponent. Okay, I got to get to baseball. I'm holding off on this because it's still, the whole thing is going through my mind. It's all, last year at this time, I was lamenting the fact that George Springer was on the DL, didn't even play in spring training, played 2 games, whatever, and then got hurt again. So I'm pretty sure this is the way it was. I'm like, oh, geez, you can't do this in a division where you've got the Yankees and Boston and Tampa. You can't do it, no matter how much talent you've got. So it's early. It's just like last year, except this year, we can play all of our games in Toronto. We don't have to worry about any of the other shit, okay? Which was a nice built-in excuse, but the reality was we fell a game short. We meaning the Blue Jays, okay? Now, I told you this. I had tickets for 5 games. They all got canceled. I finally got to go to a game. I couldn't even see Vladdy hit because there's a coach standing in front of me. I'm pissed already. And now I got Danny Jansen, who lasted 3 games before he got on the injured list, and Teoscar Hernandez, who lasted 5 games. And not only that, he was like, he took a swing and he was, and then he said, I think it hurts, but I think I'll take another hard swing just to see how it is. Instead of going, maybe I should, settle down a bit. No. He took another swing and I went, oh, Jesus, now we're in trouble. And now he's on the 10-day not DL. What is it called now?
IL.
IL.
Oh, IL.
Yeah, IL, injured list instead of disabled list. You can't say that, right? Anyway, so he's on that. And he even, I think he told Hazel May, he said, she said, well, how long do you think he'll be on? And he said, like 2 weeks. So he's going 2 weeks. Now, any athlete who thinks they can come back is going, man, I'll be back tomorrow. next week for sure. I mean, he's going like 2 weeks. I don't like that already, right? Because it's an oblique, and I've never had an oblique injury, but I have to believe that it's one of those slow healing, nagging, could always
like a
crop
groin
up.
injury, like a groin.
Yeah,
pull.
like what George Springer had last year, like nagging kind of an injury where it just doesn't get better. You rest and rehab. Once you go back, you re-aggravate it.
You have a question via Twitter on this topic from Charles Brandt, who wants me to ask you. He says, the Jays have already lost a few players to injury. Can you explain on Hebsy on Sports why baseball players seem to be so fragile? That's Charles Brandt's words.
What are you, nuts? Piss off. 162 games. You're running full speed after balls. You're tumbling, you're diving. Guys are throwing 90-mile-an-hour exploding fastballs at you. Okay? Give me a break, right? Even if you get a piece of one, you foul it off your shin, your ankle, you're hobbling around. Now you got to change your gait. Now you got to run like Walter Brennan because you just took a shot right off the ankle, okay? Hey, I got news for you. When I stub my toe, I'm miserable for 3 days. I cannot imagine fouling a ball off my instep, off my knee, taking a hot shot to the side of the head. What are you, nuts? Please, Mike, no more dumb. Do me a favor. Get the call screener to screen those calls before you put them on the air.
No, because the dumb questions get the best answers, so no way.
Baseball players. No, but George Springer was last year. This year, he seems to be fine through, what do we play, 7 games? So anyway, last night, listen, so now you don't have Jansen. So now your catchers are Kirk and, I don't know. What's his name?
Kirk, you once said Kirk could win a batting title. I remember. I wrote.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I did. This guy can hit all over the ballpark, but he's your number 1 catcher now, and I don't even know the name of your number 2 catcher now. I can't think of his name.
It's Buck Martinez, I think.
Anyway, a little thin, let's say, and in the outfield now, yeah, a little thin, especially the way they're booting balls out there. I think the Jays at this point might have one of the worst outfields in baseball today. So you're gonna have to survive that. You're gonna. Imagine you might have to go out and get a major league outfield, not a 4th outfielder, not a AAA outfielder, a major league outfield. Okay. And then like they looked a little thin on defense and they looked a little thin on the base paths. And Matt Chapman, who was like out of the 2 Chapmans who were in the 9th inning, he was worse than Aroldis Chapman, who walked the bases loaded, the fucking spousal abuser, that prick. Okay. Who always beats us. And even last night, we couldn't get to him. He walks the bases loaded. We still couldn't beat him. So if you didn't see the game, this is what happened. All right. The Jays are down 3-0. Okay. Top of the 9th. Aroldis Chapman, walk. Nobody out. Bases juiced. All right. Then there's an out. Springer strikes out. Okay. Bases loaded. Springer. Didn't even get a run home. Strikes out. At least he didn't. Right at the time I said, at least he didn't hit into a double play. That's the first thing I said. So at least he didn't hit it. He made it out. He didn't hit into a double play. That's good. Because the last thing you want with the bases loaded down 3 runs, the last thing you want, Mike, is a double play. So now you got Bo up there with the sacks juice and you got Vladdy on deck, right? And even though you're down 3-0 and you couldn't cash in, you left 10 runners on base to this point. You got another chance. This is beautiful. And you got Bichette up there. This is beautiful. And you got veterans running the bases. You don't have some kid who's you got Matt Chapman out there, right? Running at first base. And now Bichette, it's a soft liner over second. And inexplicably, Chapman, who's a veteran and is the tying run. And all he has to do is get to second base, but he has to make sure the ball goes through. And I'm sure the first base coach, Budzinski, the guy who was blocking me off on Sunday, I couldn't see a fucking thing. I'm sure Budzinski said to him, remember the cardinal rule. Remember from the time you were in frickin' T-ball, okay? Line drive, you freeze, okay? Ground ball, you got to go if you're on first base, right? Line drive, you freeze.
Right.
Ground ball, you got to go. Well, it's a line drive, Mike. It's a soft liner, but it's a line drive. You freeze.
Right.
Okay. He's going to catch it. I got to get back to first because I'm the tying run. But Jesus Christ, Vladdy's on deck and he's 0 for 4 with the golden sombrero and he needs to redeem himself. So I can't be, what the fuck? And he runs to second base and he gets doubled off. A bonehead move worthy of the legendary Fred Merkle. Look it up.
Merkel's boner.
That's right.
I watched the baseball doc from Ken Burns. I got my references.
So I'm not crazy. First of all, I'm not crazy about Charlie Montoyo's strategy. He's not a good in-game manager. And here's why. Kevin Gausman pitched a beautiful game. Beautiful game. This guy got beat by bloops, bleeders, banjo hits, you name it, call it what you want, twangers, tweeners. It's horrible, terrible defense. But what happened was when you got a pitcher that's that good and you're going against Severino, who's also good, runs are at a premium, I think. The game was 3-0 final at a premium. And so I know you're not supposed to bunt. I get it. But bottom of the order, when you've got two men on, okay, in the second inning, two men on, and the batter is Espinal, you cannot be flying out to left field. You have to advance that runner to third. You've got to. You got to get your pitcher an early run. And so I didn't like, and I don't know, what he said to Santiago Espinal, but Espinal's not going to get into a double play. He's got good wheels. That's number one. You got to get that runner over to third with one out. You have to. 0-0 game. It's early. You're on the road. So, okay, you're not bunting, but hit it to the right side, do something like that. But he flies out in a 2-1 pitch. So he doesn't advance the runners. But had he done so, the Jays would have scored at least one, because on the next play, Bradley Zimmer looks like he's going to beat out a play at first base, and Rizzo drops the ball. It's an error. The run would have scored. We would have been up 1-0. Okay. And Biggio, the other runner, would have advanced to third with one out. And then that fly ball to medium right field, for sure, Kirk, they don't send, which they didn't. But Biggio, maybe they send. And maybe he scores, and maybe it's 2-0, and that's a different game. I know, and ifs and buts were candies and nuts, but still, I don't like his in-game managing. I just don't. I don't like it.
How come I can't say shit the bed, but you dropped an F-bomb there?
Well, because shit the bed, the visual, Mike, reminds me of Bill Russell. It reminds me of Bill Russell. Do you know the story of Bill Russell?
Tell me the story.
Well, Bill Russell in Boston, of course, the most racist town. But imagine what it was like in the late 50s, early 60s. Real serious racial issues in that town. And when Bill Russell was playing for the Celtics, and a tremendous player, his house was broken into, and they defecated on his bed, among other things. Yeah. So when you say that, it reminds me of that. It's disgusting, because Bill Russell,
that's a good reason.
And this is Jackie Robinson Day, man. We're talking about a guy that, no one should ever have to take that type of abuse, but I cannot imagine what it must have been like. Unbelievable. All right, our guest is going to join us in a couple of minutes. By the way, the Jays return home. They play Oakland this weekend. Oakland. In fact, they referenced on the broadcast last night that the Oakland A's are likely in their hotel rooms watching this game.
Need more mumble.
while the Blue Jays are struggling here in New York, So there's always that kind of like, they're
Can
resting.
I ask
The other,
Martinez, quick, is he mumbling more than ever now? Like,
you're going to get me in trouble. Come on.
Well, no, I just want to know your analysis.
Who do you think got Buck Martinez into the broadcast business? Who?
I'm going to guess it's you.
It's me. I suggested. They said we need a guy on the Jays that's articulate and can explain the game. And I said, Buck Martinez is great. He's a great interview. Let's get him on, the radio broadcast, right? I was hosting a show called Baseball Today or Baseball Tonight or whatever it was called. I forget. And so, we wanted the Blue Jay perspective. This was 1984. It was 84. And so I said, Buck would be great. And so he would come on post game for the home games only. He'd go, instead of everyone would go into the locker room, right? He'd grab a beer or whatever and he would do the post-game show with me from the dugout microphone, right? He'd be saying, and it was great, right? Brought to you by Nissan. Okay, Nissan.
Yeah. Catchers always know the game best. Now, let me ask you this, though, since you worked so closely with him on the air in the mid-'80s. Did he mumble then? When did the mumble? The mumble has been getting progressively worse. Maybe the man's unwell. Yeah, I think every year it's a bit more mumbly. I think it's really getting mumbly right here at the Jays and Yankees Stadium. Just monitor that. I think the man might be unwell, and I love the guy. I don't want to see anything bad happen to him. He's got great hair.
I thought Joe Siddle did a fabulous segment yesterday on the pregame show about how Vladdy hits the ball and how his third homer or his second or one of the three home runs he hit, how he hadn't even straightened his arms, like to make, maximum power, that his arms were still, bent on this inside pitch. And it was just like sort of frame by frame. It was beautiful. Just the way he cleared his hips and stayed back. I love those segments. I love that, inside baseball. That's inside baseball. We have no idea. We go up there, I couldn't tell you the last time I went up against a batting machine or a pitching machine or whatever, but we have no idea. But to see it broken down like that, it's unbelievable. It's fabulous.
I'm aching to get your take on something, but I'm not sure if you're saving it. But I want to know because you were more than okay. You thought it was the right move. Get Kershaw out of there on that pitch count. What was he through 7 innings of perfect game?
7 innings. But the thing is that he was on 80 pitches, and he said the right thing. I'm sure he would have loved to have done it. But I mean, of all people, he's a 34-year-old veteran, and Davey Roberts had done this many times. Listen, man, like, here's the way I look at it. Some people were comparing it to Koufax and all that, and how people remember Koufax's perfect game, and a perfect game is just one of those things. It's a perfect game. And I'm thinking, like, are you kidding me? Like, Philip Humber threw a perfect game. Philip Humber.
Okay,
so great. And then what happened to him after that? It's okay, I guess, right? But I mean, if I'm a Dodgers fan, I want Kershaw there in the postseason, which he hasn't been able to do. He's a terrible postseason pitcher. So, it's great. It is. It's great for the fans. I can see Dave Roberts' thing, though. I mean, I would have, as a fan, I'm selfish. I want to see a great individual. I don't give a shit who does it. I don't care. I'm not a Dodger fan. I'm not necessarily a Kershaw. I don't hate him, but, I have no skin in the game. But, yeah, it would be nice to see. But I get it. Because, in October, they're going to go, there's Kershaw. He's thrown 212 innings. His arm's about to fall out. If he wouldn't have gone those last 2 innings and had that perfect game broken up with 2 outs in the 9th, who knows where we'd be today.
Hebsy, if I may, and your answers are valid, and of course you're probably right. Let the robots decide when Kershaw comes out. But if I may, as a fan, this is precisely why, like, my 20-year-old wants nothing to do with this fucking game. Like, this game keeps shooting itself in the foot. How fucking awesome would it be to see Kershaw pitch a perfect game and you pull him?
It would be awesome. It would be awesome.
And this is what I as a fan, this is what I hate about the game in 2022.
Yeah, you would watch it on the highlights. So you're not home watching the game, though. You get the highlights. You go, oh,
regardless.
Regardless. If you were there, you were watching this game, and you were into the game. Oh, look at this. He's got a no-hitter. You're not going, oh, he's perfect through 2. He's perfect through 2. He's perfect through 3. He's perfect through 4. But you're watching the game. I wasn't watching the game. I don't know anyone that was watching the game in my circle of influence.
Okay, but I
don't know if the game was on TV.
A Toronto guy.
It doesn't make a difference. Okay, I'm talking about me. What do I give a shit what some guy from Costa Mesa, California thinks about it? No. Okay. If you said to me, hey, guess what? On Jay Onrait's show, he's gonna show highlights of the perfect game. I go, really? That's great. Highlights of the perfect game. He's gonna show every strikeout, and he's gonna show the final out, and they're gonna have sound up. Here's the pitch. It's strike 3. The perfect game. Kershaw's done it. He's done it. Okay. And then the news cycle ends, 18 hours later, and we're on to something else. It's just like Vladdy Guerrero has hit 3 home runs. Vladdy Guerrero, first time since Reggie Jackson, blah, blah, Vladdy Guerrero. And then the next day, there you
Screw the fans, right, Hebsy? Screw them. Like, we're on a pitch count here.
Right on. Our guest is going to be joining us soon, we hope, right?
Yeah, I always wonder, like, do you want him before you mention the sponsors or after?
No, I want you to bring him on.
Sometimes he's coming in.
He what?
No, I'm bringing him in. I usually leave him in the waiting room until you kind of are ready for them.
Have you brought him in?
Yeah, he's got to turn on his camera, but he's
all right. So,
coming in. The great Scott Morrison.
The great Scott Morrison's joining us. Wonderful. He's going to be, by the way, a very clean man because he's going to get a gift back from NateBakeSoap.com. If you're sick of the dry winter skin, and by the way, it is still winter. I don't care what they say. It's still winter. You got to use soap that's made from shea butter that Nate makes. It's beautiful. And Mike knows this. Monica knows this. I know this. Everyone I know knows that Nate Baked Soap makes the best soap, like bourbon, tobacco, eucalyptus, mint. So our guest is going to receive a lovely gift pack from Nate Makes Soap, and he'll be so clean. Not that he isn't now. Also, we've set up a partnership with the good people at goodfootdelivery.com. They're a Toronto courier service that provides meaningful employment to the neurodiverse and developmentally disabled community. We had T-shirts delivered from them here to the door. These guys do a great job, guys and gals. They track your order online. You know exactly when it's been picked up, when you're going to get it. And for as little as $4, for a delivery in the city of Toronto. Good foot delivery. So check them out. Don't overpay for delivery. And by the way, if you order from Good Foot Delivery, put in the promo code Hebsy50 for 50% off your first 2 deliveries. And I failed to mention that for NateMakesSoap.com, Hebsy20 is the code. All right. Joining us now, special guest, veteran journalist, mainstay at the Toronto Sun for many years, including a stint as its sports editor. And he was a frequent guest on Leaf Hockey on Global when I was there. Eventually ended up, I don't know how, at Rogers Sportsnet. And now he's a big shot there, executive producer of hockey. And Scott, are you in fact a Hockey Hall of Famer as the recipient of the Elmer Ferguson Award? Scott Morrison, everybody, by the way.
Well, good morning, guys. Thank you very much for having me. And
Sure.
I should say an alumni at Sportsnet and Hockey Night in Canada.
Okay, an alumni. I don't know.
course.
You know, I can only do so much searching on the internet to find out what is Scott doing these days, right?
Yes, well, writing books, and we can talk about that. But
We're gonna.
there's a bit of a debate about the Hockey Hall of Fame part of it. Is we are acknowledged, the Elmer Ferguson Award winners and the Foster Hewitt Award winners, by the Hall, and our plaques are in the Hall. We have the blazer that acknowledges us as media honorees. Once upon a time, they were called actual Hall of Famers, and some people that were part of the committee decided that the media weren't Hall of Famers. They were just honorees, award winners. So call it what you want, but I'm quite happy to be part of the crowd.
Look, you're a Hall of Famer in my books anyway. If you're not a Hockey Hall of Famer, whatever semantics, you're a Hall of Fame writer. How many books have you written?
Well, I'm probably up to 15 or so in that range, and have, if I can shamelessly plug
away.
very, very timely over the last year with the
We already referenced them. Look, those were look, in those days you covered, you saw all of his game. I mean, I watched his career as well. It was on a similar parallel as mine and yours. But to me, your best book is one of the first, The Days Canada Stood Still, Canada versus Russia, 1972. And so we're coming up. This is the 50th anniversary in September. It's the 50th anniversary. There you go.
This is new. This is coming out.
What is that? What is that?
This is the 50th anniversary book coming out in 2 weeks.
Oh my God.
And it's, the day I did the Days Canada Stood Still was the 20th anniversary.
Was that what it was?
Just before the 20th anniversary. And now we're coming up on 50 years, which is just absolutely staggering for all of us to think about how time has passed. But what an amazing journey it was to do this book again and to talk to all the players. And sadly, we've lost many on both sides, especially on the Russian Soviet side. There's only I think 6 or 7 players still alive, but more Canadians, thankfully. But boy, the memories that they have and the stories they have to tell are just unbelievable, because it was a life-changing and a game-changing moment on both sides of the pond.
Right. Everybody of a certain vintage remembers exactly where they were when Paul Henderson scored in the 8th game. I mean, it's, to me, it's similar to, if you were alive when Kennedy was assassinated, you knew, or when the man landed on the moon. But I'm interested because that took place in 72. In 82, I was working in radio in Toronto, and I did a 10-year anniversary audio where I had a lot of these guys come into the studio when they were in Toronto. Phil Esposito, Peter Mahovlich, Wayne Cashman, Rod Gilbert, Ken Dryden, of course, on and on. Some of them were still active players. And Esposito had never seen, because video cassette players were pretty, new in those days. I'd never seen a tape of himself basically giving it to Canada after that 4th game, admonishing us as Canadians, which to me was an incredible moment. Did you find that most of the players, when you did the 20th anniversary, and now, of course, more so, have vivid memories, certain pockets, but there's others where they don't remember, like what we might remember, like they weren't there to see the Esposito thing. So are their memories, different from ours in that perspective?
Yeah, obviously the Espo speech after the loss in Vancouver The players in the dressing room. You didn't have social media like we had today. Players weren't grabbing cell phones. They didn't exist. There wasn't the World Wide Web and all that sort of thing. So they were kind of oblivious to it. They heard it secondhand. Brad Park told me he went out, he had breakfast the next day with his parents and there was no mention of it. You didn't have the morning news and all that sort of thing. But it was a galvanizing moment for the country because the people who did see it, the fans who saw it, all of a sudden realized, hey, wait a minute, we should kind of get behind these guys because they are sacrificing, they're doing their best. And maybe we should stop underestimating our players and start appreciating the other guys who are always undersold going into this series. And yeah, I mean, a lot of the memories for the players, it was a blur at times for them because what we can't appreciate today, and as much as I remember saying the world was different in 72, and then I was talking to somebody a month or two ago, and all of a sudden with everything that's sadly happening with the Russians and Ukraine, all of a sudden it isn't so different. But what we didn't know the Russians back then, we didn't know the Soviets, and they were just a black and white image on the evening news, and they were the big scary Russian bear, and the Cold War was on in the world. And so the emotion that was attached to that series, I don't think we can ever appreciate that again. 87 came close because they were still divided, but now we had Ovechkin playing in Toronto last night,
Right.
And whatever thoughts on his politics, that's different. But you got the Russians, the Swedes, the Finns, everybody's amalgamated and it's all playing for the same prize. But back then it was us versus them. And it wasn't just about hockey. It was about our way of life. It was about our politics. And to reproduce that ever again may be impossible.
Well, let's put it this way. The dislike for the Russians was real in 1972. And now the dislike for the Russians is multiplied, I guess you would say. So that leads me to this question, Scott. And unfortunately, perhaps, and hopefully not, do you think not necessarily the sales of your book, but anything surrounding the 50th anniversary in Canada will be tempered because of the fact that we don't want to celebrate it with the Soviets, perhaps as much as we would had they not invaded Ukraine? What's your thoughts on that?
That's a great question, Hebsy. And one of the things that the evolution for the players from 72 to now even is that, back in the day and for a lot of the years in 82 when you had them on your show, they still kind of hated them. They hated that way of life. They hated what Russia, Soviet Union was all about. But over the years, they came to appreciate that they're just people and that they weren't responsible for what governments were doing and the atrocities and all the rest of the things that were happening at that time. And they appreciated them as being people and athletes. And I think that appreciation for those players from 72, the Russians, the Soviets at this time, that's not going to change because of the politics of the country at this point. Sadly, because of what's happening, and this celebration is low on the list of sad things that are associated with what's happening in Ukraine, obviously. But it's going to overshadow it to a degree. It's going to take out an element. I mean, the Soviets over the years have celebrated that 72 series like they won because it was, in a way, a victory for them because they proved they could play on the same stage as the mighty Canadians, the mighty NHLers. And so they celebrated the Canadian players like heroes and sometimes did it in a better fashion than we did for them ourselves. And I can only hope that as our country, as we get closer to September, that we celebrate that moment regardless, because it's great. It was a great moment, a defining moment for our country on so many levels at a time when our politics was really kind of messed up too. We had coming out of the FLQ crisis, and
right.
We were a divided country in many ways there. And Paul Henderson has the great quote that's lived on through all those 50 years. He said, for those 28 days, you weren't a Francophone, you weren't a Westerner, you weren't an Easterner, you were a Canadian. And hockey brought the country together at that time. And what's kind of ironic and a backstory to it all is Pierre Trudeau, who was the prime minister at the time. He was a force. He wasn't a great hockey fan per se, but he was a force behind creating this series because he knew that hockey was such a galvanizing point or part of our lives that it would help to bring the country together. And he was part of helping to create this series.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to, and I know that there's a documentary in motion that Dave Bedini is a part of. I was actually a part of for quite a while, a group of people, led by the late Pat Stapleton, where there was some good momentum going and having a 50th anniversary celebration across the country to recognize, what we were 50 years ago and how this series galvanized, as you say. And it was going to be, former players, people who were there, Russian and Canadian players, going across the country, town halls, answering questions, educating and informing and entertaining some of younger people who weren't there to actually see it live on television, might have heard about it from their parents or grandparents. And unfortunately, because of COVID and, other things and Pat passing away and the fact that, you're looking at it, this was 50 years ago. A lot of these guys aren't around. And the ones that are, you want their impressions while these men are still are with it. Is that about right?
This will be the last celebration, Hebsy, right? Because of age. We keep losing so many of our heroes and the great players and coaches and it's just the inevitability of life. And this is going to be the last great celebration. And we want to enjoy them while they can enjoy the moment as well.
Right.
And Pat was such a great power behind the Team Canada 72 group, which still exists. And there's a lot of good people still generating their website. And the whole mission of that group was celebrate the moment, but educate generations for what it meant to this country. And there's still people, Ken Dryden's part of it, Phil Esposito's part of it. And there's a group that's really working hard right now to try and make sure that there is an appropriate and celebration that is deserving for this group and that series and what it meant to this country come September. So all encouragement to them. And they were a great part of all the players and coaches and management and everyone helping with, offering their time and stories. And, I knew everybody part of that group, but they were so excited that there was going to be a book out that they were all their support behind it as well.
Fantastic. And it needed to be done. And who else? You did the 20th anniversary. The 50th is going to be awesome. I want to talk about, if you don't mind, Auston Matthews, because you were on the beat all those years with Vive, but also following Doug Gilmour. And I guess Daryl Sittler's career for your first few years of reporting, mine too, late 70s, early 80s. And so can we compare Auston Matthews with Gilmour and with Sittler at this point?
Oh, I think absolutely. I mean, and I throw Rick Vive's name in there as well.
Sure.
I think people really underestimate, and I'm not saying that because of the book, but underestimate the magnitude of that accomplishment at the time. And,
let me point out one thing. I have to get this. There's one play. I don't know if Rick remembers it or you. It was in Minnesota, and Neil Broughton had been on Rick Vive the entire game. Neil Broughton was a tremendous checker. And what happened was Neil Broughton had the puck and was coming in on a 2-on-1, and Vive back checked, took the puck away, knocked him down, went back the other way and scored a goal. And it was and I said, this guy never gets credit for being the two-way player. He was a tough defensive player. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
No, absolutely. Tough. And I was just going to say that actually, tough defensive player, but not afraid to take care of business himself. And one of the things that I've seen in the growth of Auston Matthews' game, especially this season, and maybe even the second part of the season, and the cross check to Sandin's head is one thing, but he's being more aggressive. He's defending his turf a little bit more. And that's what Vive did. That's what Sittler did. And even Dougie Gilmour, not a big guy, as you well know, but he wasn't afraid to hack an ankle, to do something, whatever it was, to get the puck and defend his turf. And Austin's got to be in that conversation. There's no question about, Dave Keon's in there as well, but just an amazing talent. And would have loved to have seen some of those guys play in this area too,
Mhm.
because with the sticks for one thing, and well, there's not quite as much abuse in front of the net as there was the game. There's
Oh, I
always
know.
different challenges for different generations. And that's why a generational player will always be good. If you took Daryl Sittler and you put him into the day's game, he would still be a
Oh, yeah.
superstar because those people, they have the talent and they got the mind and the
Right.
vision and the sense of the game, the knowledge. But you'd always like to see different guys dropped into different places to see how it would have looked. But yeah, I mean, he's just an amazing talent, and I see his game. To your point, Hebsy, Auston Matthews, he's at both ends of the rink. He's getting better on the defensive side, and he's getting better at being a little more physical, putting an elbow up, doing a few more things to create a little space for himself.
All I know is when Auston Matthews has the puck, it's the same as when Vladdy Guerrero's at the plate. I can't take my eyes off of him. It's fabulous. So
He's
it was like that when
ferocious on the puck. He's ferocious on it now.
Ferocious. And he's, boy, well, we could go on with superlatives forever. I want to get into Scott Morrison. When I first met you, someone said, "Oh, Scott Morrison." I went, "Oh, Scotty Morrison." When you came up as a Cub reporter, I guess Scott Morrison, Scotty Morrison was the NHL's director of officiating. And so that was the first time I ever confused two people sort of with the same name. Your career ended up pretty good. Where did you start as a journalist?
Well, I did some work at the Toronto Sun freelance while I was going to school. And then I, with a buddy of mine who was a classmate, we created, I don't know if you remember the late John Gardner, who was the president of the Metro.
Of course, for many years.
At the time. He coached me in minor hockey.
He did?
Yes, he did. But we created it was a minor hockey page that appeared in the Globe and Mail every Monday. And it was just stories and notes about what was happening in minor hockey. And so that sort of got the ball rolling. And then I was working almost full-time, part-time while I was going to school at Centennial College at the Toronto Sun. And went full-time from there, and then spent 21 glorious years there before you and others, Mark Askin and yourself and Yes Guy Taddy and others in the game got me involved, John Shannon, and
sure.
On the TV side of it while I was still writing, and then took the full plunge. Scott Moore and a few others at Sportsnet pulled me over to do the full-time plunge in 2001, and then it's been a heck of a run between there and Hockey Night and back to Sportsnet one more time, and now into semi-retirement.
How has sports journalism changed?
It's changed that it doesn't feel like the reporters have the same relationship with the players or the coaches or the managers.
And that's so important, isn't it?
There's just a greater distance than there ever was. That you remember, you could go in to a Leaf room after a practice and literally sit down beside a guy and say, and you knew what his world was all about. You knew he had a wife, the kid, and you could have a conversation, and then but also be talking about the game, the team, his performance. And everything now feels like it's a scrum, and there's lacking a little bit of that personality and that personal side to it. And yeah, you don't see as many people breaking news as you probably did once back in the day. And I mean, the COVID years now have changed it again because of the Zooms and again, the scrums and created an even bigger distance. And I don't know if we'll get that back.
We won't.
And you don't see the stories about the people
right
the way you once did. You know,
people tell their own stories now. They'll tell their own story before a journalist can ferret it out of them. Maybe they say, I mean, to me, like Naomi Osaka, she'll just tell her story. She's not answering questions from journalists. She is dictating what story she wants to tell.
And too many and almost virtually all of them are coached to be vanilla before they get there. And then while they're there, certainly in the pro sports leagues, and, a lot of them just don't say anything, and they're not allowed to share their personality. And that's a real shame on many levels, because it's, in some ways, it's cheating them of the opportunity to sell their personalities, and it's starving the fans from getting to really know the players. And I know it's been a mission of some of the leagues that, we want to sell our superstars and everything else, but they're not selling their personalities, not selling them as people.
Right.
They're showing highlight reels.
Well, people have depth, and unfortunately, when we see people now, we only see something out of context or a snippet of them, but we don't know about them. The best example I can think of, Scott, and you and I worked parallel I followed the Leafs. I wasn't a beat reporter like you were, but enough games. Global did enough games, and I was at enough games over the years. And I remember one in particular in the '94 playoffs when the Leafs were in Vancouver, and Doug Gilmour was really being hassled by Dave Babbage of Vancouver in this one. I think Momesso got into it, but they really roughed him up. And Babbage in particular had really gotten under Gilmour's skin. And after the game, Gilmour had to come out. In those days, you come outside the dressing room, out into a corridor somewhere, and you got scrummed, right? The reporters all ran at you, and there's no podium or anything like that. And I remember for television, we had to get a clip of Doug Gilmour saying something that we could send back to the station. It wasn't, we didn't have time for an entire story. We only had time for what was his reaction to Babbage. And as we tried to get it, and he didn't want to talk. I remember you went around behind all the cameras, and you went up to him and you whispered something to him, and you two went for a walk to cool him out. And you must've gotten some great stuff from him then and there. And then he came back, he settled down, and he answered some questions. But I remember the next day in the newspaper, in your column, you had why he felt that way. And you had quotes that we didn't get in a scrum situation, but you could only get by, talking to him, because you had a relationship with him. And I don't think we're ever going to get that type of depth again with athletes.
You won't see it to the same magnitude. It's going to be much more limited. And yeah, that was you develop the trust with the player, you develop a relationship, and you could go up and say, "Hey, bud, let's go for a little walk here." And he knew that you weren't going to burn him. You weren't going to take him out of context. You were going to just report the goods. And I think part of now, because there are so many platforms in this world, and there are so many people that are offering opinions, and there are so many people that aren't spending that time down at the rink and being there every single day. And Hebsy, when you can praise them and show up the next day and be whatever, it's when you criticize them and you show up the next day, that's where you gain the respect. And there's too many faceless people with opinions right now, and that's created a wall between reporters and the athletes.
Right. Toronto Mike has been sitting patiently listening. I know he's
going to say, does he get a speaking part in this?
Well, come on now. You're giving me a hard time. He does it. He does like 5 shows a week. This is the only show I do.
Scotty Morrison, good to see you again, buddy.
Great to see you too, and congratulations. What number is it on your 1,000? We talked a while ago.
Well, listen, thank you for all your contributions to the show. But a few quick notes. One is I read the Rick Vive book. I loved it. I actually had Rick Vive on my show to talk about the book and everything, and it was fantastic. Secondly, is I have an advanced copy of this 1972 book that you just wrote, and I'm going to be
Everybody's got copies of books that I don't get. What's
You got to know the publicists, you got the book publishers. So I can't wait to read that. I love it. I wasn't around for 72 Summit Series, but I love absorbing all the info on it. And last but not least, I can't believe I'm on a Zoom right now with the great Mark Hebsy and the great Scott Morrison on the day we learned about the passing of Mike Bossy. Please take a moment. I will shut up and listen. Talk about the legendary Mike Bossy.
Please do, Scott.
Well, legendary is the right word, and sadly, just a 10-year career because of back injuries got the better of him. But one of the things people don't realize, like, he was just one of the best pure goal scorers in the game. 9 times 50-plus goals, NHL record. Gretzky, 8 times. So that tells you when you put those two names in the same sentence with that kind of statistic, he averaged over those 10 years 57 goals. He was just a pure scorer. And I remember, and many people have told the story now, but I remember him just saying that, asking about that natural ability to score. And he said that, do you pick your spots? And he says, no, I shoot at the net. I shoot at the goalie, because more often than not, that means you're not going to miss the net. So you'll find your spots just by accident. And if you're quick enough with your shot, he's not going to stop it a lot of times, or he's going to be bobbing and weaving. And he didn't overthink it, but 4 cups, 3 Lady Bings, a Conn Smythe, 4 Stanley Cups on the last team to do 4 in a row. Just an amazing, amazing talent.
And a gentleman.
And sadly gone far too soon.
And a gentleman. And I remember, Scott, did he not, after he retired, he was a real advocate for checking for concussions, making sure helmets were secured, that type of a thing. He was really into player safety. One of the first ex-players to really talk about player safety. And
to limit fighting as well.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and he played in that era of the Flyers, the Big Bad Bruins, and the Broad Street Bullies, and all of that. And so, while he enjoyed some of the players that are around to help him, he also realized they had skills that they could play the game and didn't have to be dropping the gloves all the time. And so, yeah, he was an advocate for all those things. And I don't know how we are for time, but we lost another player yesterday who was he was a great talent, and just had a different trail. You'd remember Hebsy.
Oshawa Generals.
Yep, Tom McCarthy.
Sure do.
Was actually selected in the junior draft ahead of Wayne Gretzky by the Oshawa Generals, and a tremendous talent. And I did a lengthy piece with him for Hockey Night in Canada a few years ago when he was coaching in Huntsville. And Tom was a great talent. Didn't realize all his skills playing with Minnesota North Stars. He got on the wrong side of the law, and then came back and was a great person once again, trying to help others and young hockey players and teach them life skills, not just hockey skills. And sadly, he passed away yesterday at 61. So a special person in his own right.
Terrible.
Too many of them.
Scott,
so you think of the year, you think of the New York Islanders, your Bossy, John Potvin, Clark Gillies, all gone in the last few months. I mean, it's been a tough stretch.
It has. It really has. Anyway, the new book is out when?
It'll be out in the next couple of weeks. It'll be on the bookshelves, and you will be getting one. This was an advance copy.
I understand, Scott. I understand. Listen,
but yours is coming.
I love that book. I remember doing the 10-year anniversary, thrilled at looking face to face at these guys. Only again, many of them still playing, and just, and I was 16 when it went on. So here I am, 26 years old in radio, and looking across from my heroes, and they're giving me details about what was going on then. Fantastic. The only thing is, every time I see Jerry D, I just think Wayne Cashman, because he portrayed Cashman in that one movie that was really good, as a matter of fact. There's just so much out there. Hey, listen, that's Hall of Famer Scott Morrison. I don't care what anyone says. Hall of Famer Scott Morrison. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope to see you down the road.
Thank you, guys. Hope to see you too.
Okay, cheers. Fantastic stuff. Hey, listen, it's Jackie Robinson Day. It's Easter. It's Good Friday. It's Easter weekend. It's Passover. It's Jackie Robinson Day today, April 15th, 1947. He broke baseball's color barrier. And very significant. And of course, in no other sport or any other endeavor is one icon or one number, in this case, 42, which is the uniform number he had, worn by every single player, every individual involved. Like, really, it's quite something, quite moving. So this was the day. This was the day that, baseball, the national pastime, quote unquote, allowed blacks to play. And of course, look what's gone on the last 75 years. This is the 75th anniversary. Just take a look. Fantastic. And I had a story up on my YouTube channel which if you're watching this channel here, where I talk about the time where a manager named Harry Walker of the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1967 started 8 blacks. Never been done before. 20 years after Jackie Robinson. I think the most was like 6. Right? You had your quotas. They had that. I mean, Boston Red Sox didn't integrate till 1959. With like 1959. The Boston Bruins integrated before the Boston Red Sox. Boston Bruins integrated the NHL. So their racist owner, Tom Yawkey. Anyway, Jackie Robinson's legend will live on every year on this day, but always really. And think of the number of players, number of people that were influenced positively, were looked up to Jackie Robinson, who did what I don't think any human being could ever do, stand up to racism and being the only black in Major League Baseball. And you're talking about dealing with people from parts of the United States this was Jim Crow. Blacks were subhuman. It was terrible, absolutely awful, a real terrible part of the history of the United States. Anyway, so on this day, I decided to do a little story. So I found out that one day, this Harry Walker, whose brother Dixie Walker was the one that said he wouldn't play with a black that the Dodgers should trade him. He was Robinson's teammate in 1947. So his brother was this guy, Harry the Hat Walker. He was a manager of Pittsburgh, and he had some issues. And one day he decided he was going to start 8 blacks. Normally they would start 5, Pittsburgh, sometimes 6. But he decided to replace his starting shortstop, second baseman, and catcher with 3 utility players who happened to be black. But the pitcher, though, was white, right? So it was like, well, what's he trying to prove here? Like, well, he didn't, 1967, he didn't want to start 9 blacks and people would make a big deal out of it. So he started 8. Nobody said anything about it. Nobody, like even the players on the team kind of went, there's, 8 of us and 1 white guy. And even the pitcher that day, a fellow named Dennis Rybant, who played junior hockey for the Hamilton Red Wings and whose his hockey career ended when he was boarded at Maple Leaf Gardens by a member of the St. Michael's Majors and reported to spring training with his arm in a sling. And they said, that's it for hockey, buddy. His name, Dennis Rybant from Detroit, Michigan. He was the pitcher that day. I interviewed him a while ago. I said, what remember about that day? He goes, I had roomed with blacks. I played against blacks in Detroit. I played with Willie Horton and all these guys. So I didn't even think about it. Really? You didn't think about it? Said, no. And so I found that to be very odd, Mike, very odd that this manager would decide to take 3 regular players out of the lineup, white guys, replace them with blacks, one of whom was a 3rd-string catcher, Jesse Gondar, who was released the next day. Why wouldn't he do that on a day where one of his black pitchers was starting? Bob Veal, a left-hander, was going to start 2 days later. Why wouldn't he do that on the day that Veal was starting? Al McBean was a spot starter. Why didn't he say, okay, this is the day I'm going to do it? Why only 8 blacks, not 9? So I think that today, when we're celebrating the 75th anniversary of the time that Jackie Robinson was the only black player on the field with 8 white teammates, 20 years later, the situation was reversed. There was 1 white guy out there and all of his teammates were black. Didn't get any play. There was nothing in the newspapers. I scoured all newspapers, not a word about it. And then years later, Willie Stargell, when the Pirates finally did play 9 blacks in 1971, Willie Stargell had said for the book they were writing, he said, yeah, no, I remember we tried to do that back in 67, but we started a white pitcher. We couldn't figure that out. So I wonder, when Harry Walker's long since passed away, if in fact, I don't know, it was racially motivated. He was playing some kind of cruel joke. Anyway, the story with visuals is on my YouTube channel.
Hebsy, I'd like to think we've come a long way since Jackie Robinson broke into the majors, but I was chatting with Dalton Pompey's dad this week, and we were talking about the racism that Dalton Pompey experienced in the 2015 Blue Jays clubhouse.
Wow.
Yeah, so here we are. That's only 7 years ago.
Let's hear it.
Well, that's enough. He was experienced racism because he's a black man, Dalton.
In the Blue Jays clubhouse.
Yes.
with other where other blacks were. Right.
I'm not sure. Actually,
other cultures.
Yes, right. So there's this where you can discuss Hispanic players versus black players. And,
well, Unel Escobar, remember him?
Yeah, of course. That was homophobic, right? That was a homophobic.
Oh, yeah. I think he was a racist as well. Okay.
So I just want to point out that we can pat ourselves and look at how far we've come, but we have a long way to go.
True that. Okay. In golf, Corey Connors had a hole in one yesterday. Okay. Again, this guy has had 4 holes in one on tour since the 2019-2020 season. 4 holes in one. And by the way, announcers, please, it's not hole in ones. It's not hole in ones. It's holes in one. Thank you.
Like mothers-in-law, right? It's not mother-in-law.
Right, exactly.
Mothers-in-law.
Inspectors general. Yes, please. It's not hole in ones. Never again. Stop it. Anyway, he's got 4, which is the most of any PGA Tour players.
Wow.
4 holes in one.
How many do you have?
0. Anyway, he's at 5 under. Also at 5 under is Canadian Adam Svensson, Roger Sloan -3, Adam Hadwin -2, Michael Gligic even, Nick Taylor +1, Mackenzie Hughes +2. The leader is American Cameron Young, who fired at 8 under 63. The women are playing the Lotte Championship in Hawaii. How do you say it? Hawaii or Hawaii? Hawaii. Thank you. You're welcome. Henny Youngman. Brooke Henderson withdrew after an opening round 74. Withdrew. Man, 74, it's not that bad. I hope there's not an injury. I hope she didn't tweak her oblique like Teoscar Hernandez with a big swing. Oh, boy. The NBA has fined Charlotte Hornets forward Miles Bridges $50,000 for throwing his mouthpiece into the crowd after he was ejected from Wednesday's game to the loss to the Hawks in Atlanta. Okay? Fine for throwing his mouthpiece, his disgusting mouthpiece into the crowd.
That's gross. Yeah, it's gross.
After picking up 2 technical fouls for arguing a call, an agitated Bridges left the floor for the locker room, was heckled by a male fan in the tunnel, and then heaved his mouthpiece. That's what the copy says, heaved. Now, heaving it, what would that be, Mike? When you heave something.
That's a thesaurus word for throw.
Okay, heaved his mouthpiece in that direction, hitting a young female fan.
Does that make it worse?
A male fan heckled. He heaved his mouthpiece, hit a young female. Now, that's bad. Bridges apologized after the game and then said he has reached out to the female on Instagram to apologize, but is yet to hear back. Lawsuit.
He's holding out.
The lawyers don't say a word. Don't respond back. We'll be preparing a lawsuit against the city of Atlanta. The Atlanta, what's it called? The Phillips Arena. Is that where they play? I don't even know the name of the arena.
No idea.
Think it was anyway. I don't know. The state of Georgia. What county? Cobb County. The Atlanta Hawks organization and the Charlotte Hornets organization and the security firm that's responsible for protecting this woman from flying mouth guards.
Oh, man, I'm thinking of that Seinfeld episode with the second spitter and Keith Hernandez.
Now, here's what I'm thinking. I'm Miles Bridges, okay? I make, I don't know how many millions of dollars.
Sure.
I'm reaching out on Instagram to apologize, right? Should I maybe sweeten the pot a bit? Not just an apology, but maybe, I don't know, offer the young woman season's tickets, right? And an autographed jersey and whatever. Okay. But I mean, reaching out like, I'm sorry. I hope you'll, dude, you threw
well, better than nothing, right?
You got a fucking mouthpiece at me, man.
Right.
There's got to be more than an apology. I need a signed basketball at least.
I'm thinking this is $100,000 settlement at the very least, right?
Now, the one question that has not been answered, what happened to the mouthpiece? Did the woman pick the mouthpiece up? Did she kick it, step on it, spit on it? What happened to that mouthpiece? Because that's evidence.
We need this Zapruder film. We got to break.
And does she have like the marks from it where the mouthpiece hit? Where did it hit her? Right? Did it bounce 3 times and hit her in the toe? I don't know. Anyway, that's it for episode 280 of Hebsy on Sports. Have a fabulous Good Friday. Chag Sameach. Happy Passover tonight for those of you who observe. And boy, good week for egg salespeople, right? If you're selling eggs, this is the big weekend. Easter and Passover.
Right.
Okay?
I was going to say, happy Easter to everybody who celebrates. Quickly, Hebsy, before you wind down here, you talked about holes in one versus hole in ones. Correct. What do you do? And this was brought up by Steve on your live stream on YouTube, but what do you do with runs batted in? Because it's runs batted in, but it's also RBIs, which is run batted ins. Like, what do you do with RBIs?
Ribbies.
Ribby!
I'll take ribbies. Thank you, Steve. Thanks so much. Hey, that's Toronto Mike over there, folks. He's the man. Thanks to him for production and inspiration. Hit him up at Toronto Mike and check out his outstanding podcast. Thanks to Scott Allen for executive production. Thanks to our guest today, Hall of Famer Scott Morrison. There, I said it. Woo. Thanks to our sponsors, NateMakesSoap.com and GoodFootDelivery.com. And thanks to you for allowing us into your headspace. We're back with another episode next week. Guess who our guest is going to be? Former Major League manager and former Blue Jay third base coach, John McLaren. He was the one during the 87 season when the Jays collapsed. He was there. He saw it all. And he said it wasn't Jimmy Williams who choked. Maybe others choked. Anyway, John McLaren's going to join us next week. It's going to be great. Until then, have a happy Easter weekend. Happy Pesach. Happy Jackie Robinson Day. So long for now.
Goodbye to everybody watching on the live stream. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks, everybody.
Even the Godfather was on the live stream because of the statutory holiday. He's not at Palma Pasta, but Anthony Petrucci was on the live stream. So
nice. Hey, when you say statutory, I don't like that word either. It just reminds me of something else. Holiday. I like holiday.
Well, I need the list.
I know when you say statutory, I'm like,
okay, well, I think that's the word. Okay,
I've been watching too many of those like crime shows.